Hala Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakak Wadash, Yahweh, being the true name of the Father, as the word ignorantly calls God, Yahweh Shai, being the true name of the Son, as the word ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, along with the Holy Spirit, who taught me this truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect, and to the brothers that's pushing this truth in sincerity, risking life and freedom to do so. And shalom to the brothers and sisters that are listening and learning. This is your brother Labah coming at you with another lesson in truth. And I was meditating in the spirit, and I'm like, man, where do I go? So the spirit was working with me. I was like, well, I've been wanting to do a lesson about this a while, but to kind of get into the psychology of how people think today and how they don't understand the history that led up to this point. All right. And it's very important if you waking up in the truth or you in the truth to understand this. There's a lot of people that live in this right now culture, this right now mentality. All right. And the so-called white man coerced your mind to be like this. That's why he created rap music. You know, well, let's not say it like that. Well, he exploited rap music, all right, and he pushed these artists that push death, drugs, adultery, in their music, and many other foul things, and it polluted our people's mind over time, all right, and it made them desire the things of this world and to be spiritually disconnected from reality in a lot of cases, all right. So the so-called white man is he funds, he has the money to run this whole industry, this whole system. So everything that you see on television, social media, um, radio, all right, music, it's all being funded by the so-called white man. In a lot of cases, it's to destroy our people's minds. Because if once your mind is destroyed, the body follows the mind. All right. Once your mind is destroyed, that's where this battle is started at, in your mind. Your body's gonna follow. So if you bugged out in the mind, it's your body's gonna carry those acts out. All right. And that's why we find ourselves in this situation today. Now people got many strongholds on their mind. It's one extreme to the next extreme. If they not bugged out on this, they bugged out on that. All right. Um, and our people got a very selfish way of looking at life. They look at like, well, I'm worried about my life and my lifetime, and whatever happened up to this point don't matter. And in any culture, any nation, all right, they always remember where they came from, all right, and that keeps them, that makes them who they are to that very day, and that's what you call, um, you would say pride, in today's term, but you can have two separate things of pride. You can have foolish pride, and you can have pride in a good way. I just say it like that, all right, but you got to watch that. But at the end of the day, we have lost sight of where we came from. We lost sight of who we are. In most cases, our people don't even know who they are. And that's a part of the big problem, because you don't know who you are. You can't know where you came from, and you can't know where you're going. I mean, you lost. That's why Yahweh Shah reference to our people as being lost sheep, and it's true. All right. This is a whole different bugged out society with TikTok videos. See, everything is pushed here to destroy your mind and have you in a childlike mindset. All right. Fight, you got the black, so-called black man and woman into, this fight, this perpetual fight. All right. This perpetual drama. All right. There you promoted folly, 24/7 foolishness on television. You promoted fantasy. You promoted destructive lifestyles. You promoted gangster music. You promoted thought music. All right. Twerk videos. You promoted McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King. All right. You promoted a destructive life every day. You promoted vanity. All right. The lust of the flesh. All right. And this has destroyed our people. They don't know what the hell going on right now, man. All right. All they can speak on is their lifetime and their experience in America. And most of it has been hell. So let me get into this. This is a part of your history, and it's applied to you other tribes as well. All right. We got the so-called Puerto Ricans, which would be Ephraim. We got the so-called Cubans, which would be Manasseh. All right. The Gadites would be the so-called Native Americans. Reuben be the so-called Seminole Indians. Levi the so-called Haitians. Benjamin the so-called West Indians. All right, so on and so forth. You just apply it to your other tribes too, because you call it complete hell. It says valuable gang of young Negroes. It says will be sold at auction on Wednesday, the 25th, at 12 o'clock at Banks Arcade. 17 valuable Salakia. Young Negroes, men and women, field hands sold for no fault. You see this? And this went on in many places in America, as you can see. All right. They were selling kids, they were selling women, men. You got to think about like, too, you got to be a devil to even enslave people the way they done us and the other tribes as well. And tortured, I mean, rape, robbery, I mean, anything that you could think of. Now it's more psychological. All right. They destroyed you with Christianity, the modern form of Christianity. With all those images in your mind, they keep calling the name Jesus. They keep calling the name God. That's seared in your psyche, man. And that's why most of our people can't let that go, because this is all they know. They've been taught nothing but lies, but they think these lies are truth. And when you try to, enlighten them on this, they get defensive, and sometimes they want to fight. Sometimes they'll cuss you out. And they go to show you that our people are so broken mentally and spiritually that they holding on to these lies, man, because they don't have nothing else. All right. They feel like they don't have nothing else, but you got the greatest history in the world. You the most high chosen people, man, whether you believe it or not. These are facts, not fiction. All right. So these devils got a lot to pay for, man. All right. And let's go into this redlining. All right. And these things that they did after slavery, so-called, and we didn't get free, we got emancipated, which is it's a transfer from property from one owner to the other owner, from the plantation owners to the federal government. All right. So it's many things to get to. All right. But they got something called black codes that was in 1865. It says so-called black codes were state laws used to restrict, criminalize people of color, so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans. For instance, selective enforcement of vagrancy charges, which that means being homeless. See, you devils did the whole setup game. All right. And you think you know most of our people don't really know how to put one and two together, but we do. The Lord put the Spirit on us to understand, so we could bring it out and teach our people and be able to methodically break it down so they can understand. See, what you did after slavery, a lot of these plantation owners would say, oh, okay, yeah. A lot of them didn't even tell these jakes that they were so-called freed, but the jakes that did realize this, they say, well, okay, you can go. All right. But these devils knew that they was going to be leaving these jakes, our people, empty-handed. They didn't have nothing. All right. And if you don't have nothing, how the hell you going to get something out of nothing? All right. They knew there was a setup, man. So a lot of these jakes would have to come back because they had nowhere to go. Either they will lock them up, and that's when you get this term, lottering, if I'm not mistaken. Like a lot of these jakes that left these plantations, they didn't have anywhere to go, so they was like migrating, right? And they created laws that they couldn't, if they was homeless, they would take them to jail. All right. They, vagrancy laws, something like that. All right. And they would re-enslave them under the prison system that way. And some jakes, what they did, they left and they knew they were screwed, so they had to come back and work as sharecroppers. So it was a catch-22. It was all a snare. It says charges was used to control and punish unemployed. How you gonna be employed when you was a slave? And it's crazy, man. It said and underemployed blacks. All right. It says sharecropping. All right. Some of you brothers and sisters probably heard that term, but it says under the system of sharecropping, freed men, and it's from 1865 to 1940. It really was longer than that. All right. It says under the system of sharecropping, freed men and women would work a piece of land and split the harvest with the owner. Check this out. The supposed goal was for the sharecropper to eventually own the land. However, Landowners were charged exorbitant interest on tools and other goods purchased by the sharecropper, furthering their dependency on the landowner. Sharecroppers were rarely able to pay in full and would remain perpetually in debt. A new form of servitude emerged, gripping free men and women into a similar bondage as slavery. You devils, man. All right. The water Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah for bringing this information out to us, man. Salakia. And this redlining, what these devils did is they would purposely put the so-called blacks and Hispanics on one side of the city and the so-called whites on the other side of the city. And the so-called white communities will have the best schools, the best recreational facilities. They have a better whole life, man. Better restaurants, better quality of food. And in the so-called black and Hispanic neighborhoods, it would be crime infested, drugs, prostitution, the worst foods that leads to all these diseases that we suffer to this very day. All right. The music, so the rap music, all right, so on and so forth. It was a whole systematic structure of this system, and it goes on to this very day. It's just more hidden now, but it's still the same system. That's why you still go to most of these um, cities. It still got the so-called black side, and usually the so-called black side has a Martin Luther King streak, right? And then you got the so-called white side. That's in every city, even to this very day. All right, I travel, I know. You know what I'm saying? You brothers that's been around and traveled, you know this too, and you sisters. All right, I'm just bringing it to your memory so you can understand why things are the way they are. That's why ain't nothing changed, man. All right. Yeah, you got a few jakes that sold out and made a little so-called money. That's it. It's a very small percentage, maybe less than 1%. All right. And they had to sell out. Look here, racial zoning. It says Baltimore Mayor Manhoul introduced a racial zoning ordinance that formalized residential Salakia segregation. So black only, white only. You know what I'm saying? You had the water fountains and restrooms. So you devils got a lot to pay for, man. All right. Then you got our people into this simple mind that they don't understand. So you put those snares on their mind too. You got to pay for that as well. Because most of our people don't want justice. All right. They don't know you the devil. They get offended when we call you the devil because they don't know this history, man. All right. Let's get back into this. That formalized residential segregation and stipulated where households could live in neighborhoods according to race. You see this? It says the ordinance also required all new housing development to be race specific. So in a lot of these deed restrictions, these HOAs, they had made a covenant that they will only let so-called white people move in these homes and get FHA loans and stuff like that. It gets deep, man. Why I say any kind of way they can oppress us, they did it and they doing it now. All right. It's just more subtle. It's just more hit now. All right. Let me go here. I want to show you another thing before I close it out. This welfare thing, because the most people on welfare are so-called white people, man. You didn't know that. Let's go right here. It says number 4, among the population that receives welfare, 43% are white, so-called. It says the biggest chunk of welfare recipients are non-Hispanic whites. Hispanics make up 28% of all welfare recipients, followed by non-Hispanic blacks, 23%. So most of these welfare benefits are allocated to the so-called white people, man. And the housing and all that was initially created for so-called white people, man. All right, people don't know that. But I'm running out of time. Call Hala Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakwadah, Shalom.